Greetings. In this video, we would learn systematic literature review. How do you really do it? Using Web of Science database. So the first thing first, we need to know whether we want to do it on a particular construct, we want to do on a particular theory, or we want to do on a relationship between two constructs. So the most popular is on a particular construct. The first thing that we need to do is we need to open Web of Science. We need to have full access of that. So here I have opened Web of Science. As you see here, it has the Documents tab. On the Documents tab, you can select one of these databases. So we are selecting Web of Science Core Collection. In that, we, for example, want to do it on leadership. If you want to do systematic literature review on leadership, we just write leadership and then press search. The problem with leadership is that it will result so many documents. In total, 291,599. That's too much for anyone to analyze. So what do? We go back, we narrow it down further and say we want to examine a relationship. So suppose we want to examine relationship between leadership and engagement. Okay. Now we search it. We find that it has significantly reduced to only 17,533 results. However, there are different types of engagement, as in suggestions you can see work engagement, employee engagement, etc., etc. So what we have to do is we have to again go back to filter it further. So can we say that we are restricting ourselves to only a particular type of engagement? If yes, then we have to write work engagement and then search. Now you see it has reduced further, 8,701 results. However, it's also way too much. So you may also like to say a particular type of leadership style. For example, I say servant leadership and work engagement relationship. So when I search this, I find that there are 278 results, which is acceptable. You can analyze those results. Now what we have to do here is a bit of caution here, that we are also looking for servant leaders. We're also looking for servant leading. We are also looking for work engagement. We are also looking for work engaged people and things like that. So what we have to do is we have to refine it, and after lead we have to type a star in order to make it more encompassing. And star means that extensions like leadership, leading, leader will all come in that particular search. Similarly here, star and then search. So you would now find that there are 391 results. So once you have found, you can always copy this query link and paste it in your Word file for your future reference as to what exactly was the search query. However, you can filter it further using these filters. For example, you want only for a few years or last 10 years. So you can see from here and say you want it from, say, 2015 onwards. You can restrict it to here, then refine. So how many you have now? Now you might also like to refine it using only articles, review article, proceeding paper, etc. However, I would suggest not to use this filter because systematic review aim is also to have a comprehensive picture of it. So I would suggest to include all these, even if it is a book chapter, even if it is an editorial, and even if it is a proceeding paper. Okay. So document types, I would suggest include all. Then when it comes to research profiles, you might be interested in knowing as to which particular author has contributed more. Now see, let's have languages, which is often a barrier. So you might like to include only the language that you know. For example, I know only English. So I have defined it only to English. And now the results are 361. And there are other filters if at all you want to go through those filters and filter your query more. Okay. Now what you can do here is you have certain options like analyze research, citation report, create alert, and things like that. Now, when it comes to analyze results, when you use this particular tab, you'll find that it will create a chart. It is called tree map chart. Number of results is 10. You can always download that. But this tree chart is for what? So you have different Web of Science categories. So you want to change the categories. So for example, you want tree chart relating to document types, then it will show accordingly. And you can always change the number of results. If you want to fit in 15 in that, you can fit in 15. You can always download the same. Similarly, there are many other things like you can sort it alphabetically if you want. And suppose you want from the perspective of authors. Okay, how many authors are there who are prominent? So here you see there is Karate P, there is Liu, and there is Rabul. These three authors are quite prominently publishing in this particular area. And of course, you have the table also that you can select and export. So this comes ready-made. It's quite handy. Now going back to say results for this thing, right? And it will allow you only when you select everything. Okay. You want to export in Excel, and you have to say all records on page or records from 1 to 391. What should be the record content? You want full record. Export. It's always good to export the full record so that you have all the details in case you need it. Some reviewer might have asked you to provide some information, so it will be handy for you to have a comprehensive file. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to download everything because the file itself is very heavy. So you see here, we have got this particular file. It has the publication type, authors, book authors, etc. So mainly it is the authors page which is important. Then you have article title which is important, source title is important, which you might like to mention in your table in the review. Then you might also like to have the keywords by authors. Now, why these keywords are important? Because you might like to create a word cloud out of it. Okay, or as well abstract because you'll have to do an abstract reading. So all abstracts need to be read before you go for the full length review. Then, of course, you might like to go for citations, etc. Okay, so you have time cited, etc., etc. So this is also very important. Publication year is extremely important because you might like to know how many got published in which year and the chronology of it. And of course, DOI, which you will not mention, still you would like to have those DIs. And you see here, this is very important date of export so that you can always tell that your review is limited only till this date. Another thing is publication outlet. Now you would see here that the publication outlet is mentioned here, right? So there are two columns, journal abbreviation and journal ISO abbreviation. So it's always good to have ISO 1. So you can highlight that as well. So what you do after that is, suppose your total number of records that you identified here were 391. Okay. So you open your link of the document. So you have either you can use this link or you can change in here. So the numbers that you had identified was 391. In which database? In the Web of Science database. Did you have any additional records identified? No. So you can always keep it blank. Then number of records duplicates found. It's not applicable for your case because you have used only one. How many records did you screen? So of course you screened 391 abstract, right? And how many were excluded? So you see here, you have abstracts that we have highlighted here. You can just broaden it in order to see abstract of each particular paper. Okay, and you can hide it in order to use only a particular abstract. Right, so you can create a particular column and say that this particular abstract is useful after going through these abstracts, right? You have to go through each of these. Suppose you say 200 records have to be excluded. So you're left with how many? 191 records, right? And was there a reason to exclude even some of them from these 191? If there was, then you say how many were excluded. Suppose you further excluded 100. The reason that they did not represent the said relationship. So how many were finally included which were qualitative? Suppose out of the remaining 91, 50 were qualitative and 41 were quantitative. Okay. So you can prepare this chart accordingly, and then you'll have to go through the entire set of papers that you have. That is total of 91 papers. So after this, what you do is for a particular paper, and it's always good to have a serial number for these to create a unique record. So you might like to have table that contains theory. Then you might like to have context, correlates, okay, and maybe methodology used, findings, findings relating to that particular relationship. Okay, and then you have to read all these papers and fill this particular table. After filling this particular table, you will come up with certain sort of framework or certain research gaps or both.